Hey guys, and welcome back to another lap guide here on the Coach Dave Academy YouTube channel. My name's Emery. We're here for week 7 at the Imola circuit. Let's get into the hot lap. So let's get into the hot lap guide then for the Imola circuit here for week 7. Now, obviously, quite a famous circuit, Imola. A lot of chicanes and generally quite a bumpy circuit as well, with a lot of undulation. So very tricky to get right, especially in this Porsche Cup car. So starting on the main straight here, just making sure we take the shortest line down towards turn 1. And then along to the right-hand side, spotting our braking point just in line with this, or just before, sorry, this Marshall post here with the orange. And you've got a service road on the right-hand side as well. So just starting to hit the brakes just before we get to that point, up to about 80% on the brake pedal. And then as we get towards the apex, trailing off, and then start to get back on the throttle in 3rd gear, just as we get towards these sausage curbs on the left-hand side. Do be careful with these sausage curbs, as they're quite violent around Imola. So you don't want to hit them too much if you can avoid it, especially turn 1, it's quite bad. And then turn 2, you can get a bit closer, but again, watch out. Back on the throttle as well for the 2nd apex, and then full throttle round turn 3. And make sure we're using all of the track. The track limits, they're generally quite strict around Imola. The limit is really the edge of the AstroTurf. Make sure a bit of your tyres on the curb for most of the corners. It does vary here and there. But yeah, back on the throttle into the next chicane. Again, just braking after this point with the Marshall post on the right-hand side, just in line with the 100 meters here. And then down to 4th gear, and then down to 3rd gear for the 2nd apex. So these sausage curbs are the ones you can take around the circuit. So this one's really good to take. You can cut a nice bit off the inside curb, gain a nice bit of lap time, and also open up the right-hander as well after it. So on the brakes initially, just with the 100 meter on the right-hand side, sorry. On the brakes, down to 4th gear. We've come off the brake pedal at this apex pretty much, and then we're getting back on the brake pedal again for the 2nd apex for the right-hander. And again, this one you want to avoid. This sausage curb is a bit harsher. So just watch out for that one. Then back on the throttle as early as you can. Again, the track limits at the edge of the curb, so as long as we've got a wheel on that curb, we're fine. And then back across to the right-hand side, and take a nice V shape for this hairpin as we go up the hill. So just for your reference, braking just in line with this service road here again. Down to 2nd gear, and you can see rather than turning in from a nice wide angle in more of a U shape, we're apexing quite early on. So we're just sending the car into the apex, and then doing all our turning at the apex, and then getting back on the throttle as early as we can, still just about halfway through the corner. Back on the throttle, let the car trail out towards the exit. Again, making sure we're keeping a wheel on the curb. And full throttle up the hill towards quite a blind crest, actually. and blind corner, making sure we're as far to the right as we can. Braking just before this 50-meter board up ahead, down to 4th gear, and then 3rd at the apex, using a nice bit of curb on the inside. Again, let the car trail out really nicely, and as long as we're keeping the wheel on the curb, that is absolutely fine. This one is probably the one that's going to catch you out the most, apart from the chicane that comes up in a second. Just want to make sure we're keeping this on the track in the races, just so we don't get towards that instant limit, as it is quite an easy track to go over that. And then back down the hill again, into the next right hand, just make sure we're as far left as we can. On the brakes, just in line with this 50-meter board up here. Down to 4th gear, and then down to 3rd gear, and then 2nd at the apex. Just make sure we avoid these sausage curbs on the inside. I also noticed we've got a nice bit of trail braking all the way through here. So I'll just play this in slow motion for you. Just pay attention to the brake trace here. So we come down to 4th gear, get a bit of brake pedal on, about 20%, trail off slightly just as we go over that curb, and then back on to about 50%, and then just gently decreasing that as we get towards the apex. Back on the throttle about this point, just as we apex at the corner. And then on the exit, full throttle, you can cut quite a lot of this exit curb. Again, as long as you've got a wheel on the curb, that's absolutely fine. And then carry that momentum all the way up to the tricky chicane I mentioned. Now, this is where you're going to be getting most of your off tracks in the races. It's super easy to cut, just slightly too much. And if you cut too much, even further than that, you can get a slowdown as well. So just be careful in the races. Make sure you practice your reference points. But yeah, slow motion into here. You're braking just in between the 100-meter and the 50-meter boards on the left-hand side. So just about now. Quite heavy braking, up to about 80%. And then clip the first apex. So that's just about legal, as long as there's a wheel on the curb. And then a dab of brake again. And then that is, again, just on the edge of being legal. As long as we've got a wheel on the curb there, that's absolutely fine. I just played it through for you once more, just at full speed. So heavy on the brakes, still holding the brake pedal all the way through here, and then just getting on the throttle through the second phase about here as we apex. Also got to watch out for the exit as well. But again, as long as we've got a wheel on the curb, that's absolutely fine. Any further than that, and you can pick up a slowdown on the exit as well, so just be careful and bear that in mind as well. Heading towards the final couple of corners on the circuit then. A very tricky braking zone is coming up next. Downhill and a lot of brake pressure, so it's really easy to lock up, especially if you use this curb as well. Whilst it can open the corner up for you, it can also make it a bit easier to lock up, especially these front tyres. Just be careful. If you are struggling with front locking, obviously we always suggest going slightly towards the back on the brake bias. So that's something that you might want to do for this corner. But yeah, full throttle into the corner, up to about 80% on the brake, and then down to 2nd gear. Clip the apex nicely on the inside and let the car run out. I'm just going to show you what that braking zone looks like in Delta, just so you have a bit more of a feel of what it should look like. So this is what the penultimate corner should look like in the Delta app, guys. So you can see we've got our usual stuff here. We've got the Delta at the top, speed, throttle, brake trace here. Now, the most important thing for this corner will be your brake trace. So you can see we've got a really nice smooth arch here as we trail brake up to peak pressure, about 80%, just under 80% at the peak there. Really important you're smooth onto the brake, and also important that you're smooth off the brake as well. Mainly so you just avoid the locking. If you smash the brake pedal up to your peak pressure, just going to lock the front tyres and go straight on. And then you can see we're trailing off quite nicely, and then we just hold that last bit of pressure towards the apex, and then as we apex, get back on the throttle, ready for the final corner. You can see there's a nice dab of the brake there, just for the final one as well, that you can look at there. But yeah, as usual, you can use this lap to compare to your lap times and see where you're losing, see where your best corners are, and things like that. And then back with the final corner on the circuit, so you can see we're taking a nice wide line. Again, one wheel on the curb to make sure there's no off tracks. Opening up this corner as much as you can, and then just taking a big load of curb on the inside, and then let the car run out again. Keep a car on, or keep a tyre, sorry, on the curb, and then full throttle to the line. And that will complete a lap of the Imola circuit. So obviously making sure we're taking the shortest route that we can, especially in qualifying, and that completes the lap. So that was the hot lap guide for week 7 at the Imola circuit in the Porsche Cup car. I hope that was useful for you guys. As usual, check out all the latest data packs at coachdavacademy.com and all the latest videos and hot lap guides on our YouTube channel. But I will see you next week for week 8, guys. So take care.